Welcome, welcome, welcome to 5 steps to gaining killer self-confidence. I honor you. You are the women that I work with. I work with courageous women whose hearts are open like this much to doing this work, at least this much, right? And that little bit is just such a game changer as far as really being able to dive into this work and open yourself up to all the possibilities. So I thank you, I honor you, and I am so excited to serve you. My name is Amanda DiNardo. I am a life coach. I have had a coaching business now for 5 years. I can't even believe it when I say that. Prior to that, I was a counselor at a high school, so I have my master's in education and counseling. I worked with high school kids. And I recently left that job actually last year, crazy, to really take the leap of faith in this coaching business and listen to that nudge in my heart to just do something greater. And I shouldn't say greater, but it's just been such a beautiful journey, a crazy journey. But as you can see, based on my life's journey and my work experience, that it is truly my passion and my purpose to serve others. It is such a God-given gift to be able to show other women that they are worthy of love, that they are worthy of this beautiful, prosperous life. And that's what I intend to teach you here today as we dive into these 5 steps to gain killer confidence. So it's so important to start with the definition of confidence. And this makes me think of one of my clients who wanted me to coach her in terms of like just gaining more confidence. Okay. So she kept saying to me, Amanda, like, I just need to be more confident. I just need to be more confident. And I'm like, okay, I need to like figure out what is in her brain, right? And so much of it I could tell, right? Because we are taught that we are going to find that level of confidence and trust in ourselves on the other side of something, right? If and when, if I lose the weight, if I get this procedure, if I, am a mom and I'm this great mom and I can find all the significance in my children, right? Like then I'll be confident, then I'll be happy, then I'll feel this way, right? Building confidence is an inside job. It's a gift that we get to give ourselves. So when you think about the definition of confidence, right? It just means to to walk in trust, to show up with faith, right? To have your own back is this incredible gift. And I don't mean from a prideful place. I don't mean from this self-confident place, because that's where we kind of can show up in that ego, that pride place, that boastfulness, that conceitedness. And that doesn't feel good, right? And we're meant to just feel good. And what I mean by that is feeling content, feeling like you can breathe. That's what that good feeling is meant to feel like in your body when you're showing up in a place of trust, in a place of freedom, in a place of true confidence. So my client finally, after I was like, okay, you need to define confidence for me, because clearly you're defining confidence in this place of like self-confidence. Like, hello, I need to walk in the room and like everyone needs to stare at me, right? Or I need to be able to show up on Instagram this way. It's kind of like how we define success, right? We define success as like the Ferrari. Well, then you look to your experience, your reality, and you don't have the Ferrari. So now you've just made yourself bad. You've just made yourself unsuccessful. Just like we look to outward to the world and we say like, oh, well, look at how this person shows up on Instagram, or look at their pictures and look at how they speak and all these things. And that's true confidence right there. And then we look at ourselves and we say, yeah, I'm not confident. And clearly, this is what she was doing. She was creating all the default thoughts around confidence. But once we dove into what the definition of confidence really was, she said, you know what, Amanda, like confidence really, and it took her a moment. She's like, confidence really means like trusting yourself. And this woman built like a multi six-figure business. She raised 2 kids as a single mom, a young mom. Um, I go, so do you trust yourself? She's like, yeah. So interesting how we create all of these thoughts around confidence or success or happiness, right? And it's based on what the world has told us. It's based on what our experiences, our past, our teachers, our friends, our family, all of these messages that people have told us. Again, about the if and when. If you have this, then you get to feel this. If you have, the accolade, then you get to feel confident. If you have the trophy, then you know you've been successful, right? All of these just sneaky little ways that really create the thoughts that don't serve us. So when you think about walking in confidence, it's really faith and trusting yourself plus taking action. Okay? And when you give yourself this gift of confidence, because again, it's an inside job. At any time this if and when place shows up for us, like if I get the Botox, then I'll feel really confident. Well, you get the Botox and you don't feel that level of confidence, right? Because you haven't done the work. It's in here. It's up here, right? So this gift that you give yourself, you show up in the world differently. And then it's like this boomerang effect, right? Like when we show up really, truly confident because we're walking in faith and we're taking action, oh my gosh, like there's the miracles, the circumstances, the people, the experiences that show up because of that is so beautiful. And again, it's because you have been showing up differently. You are showing up walking in that place of trust and contentment and freedom and just so much faith in your heart, okay? So we are going to dig into these 5 steps, okay? And it's so interesting as I think about these 5 steps because they're so connected. They all overlap, but I truly believe the first place that we need to start in terms of really being consciously and purposely building this level of confidence within ourselves. You think about, getting really clear. Okay. So building that level of clarity is so important. Okay. Here's what I hear often from women. They tell me what they don't want. I don't want my husband to kiss the dog before he kisses me when he gets home. I don't want to feel anxious. I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel like I'm walking on eggshells at work. I don't want to come home and yell at my kids. And I don't want. We don't spend much time getting clear on what we do want. And you have to understand, right? Like we're all such sovereign beings. We're all individuals. We all have this unique journey. So I have a client who's like building a tiny house up in the mountains in North Carolina, and she's just going to live there and do her art. And like that is her journey that she's stepping into and trusting and walking in faith, right? But we believe that life has to be so linear. So I should do this and I should do that. And this is what life should look like. And I should, wait to take vacations until I retire because that's when you do those things. And getting clear on what you want and how you want to feel is so, so important because then you can put the blinders on. And I'm going to talk more about this. Then once we have the blinders on, it's a matter of finding acceptance that life is still going to be happening around us. So I can have this clear vision of what my life is going to look like, how it's going to feel, and how I'm going to show up and what I want. But life is still going to be happening in our experience, okay? It's going to be good and bad, 50-50. Life is not happening as it should or shouldn't. It's just happening. But we allow our circumstances to define us, and we create all of these thoughts about our circumstances that don't serve us and don't help us step into that level of trust and confidence. Okay? Once we find acceptance around the fact that life is just happening, it's so important that we become aware. Okay? So there is this quote in scripture, and I have to read it. Where is it? As a man thinks in his heart, so excuse me, I know the wording, which essentially means what you think you become, right? So if we're letting all the negative default thoughts based on our 50-50 circumstance, if we're creating all of these negative default thoughts and not watching them, they're essentially wreaking havoc in our life. And if we have all these default negative thoughts that are wreaking havoc, how can you in any way, shape, or form show up confidently and trusting, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much dysfunction and so much chaos, and you're just buried under it and you're just stuck in all of it. Okay. And that's not stuck and overwhelmed and frustrated and angry and all these places, judgment, shame, guilt, like all of that is not real human emotion. We create that emotional suffering when we're not aware. Okay. So getting really aware of the thoughts so that you are like, boom, blinders on. I accept the world. I'm creating better thoughts. And now I'm deciding how I'm going to react to the world, who I want to be, what I need to do to essentially take action, because that's what decisions are. You are deciding, and then you have to show up in that decision place, right? So we can decide to like stop eating the chocolate, but you really got to stop eating the chocolate, right? Otherwise, you haven't committed to yourself, and that's what decisions are. It's staying committed, right? And then it's showing up. It's taking those action steps. And when I say showing up, I mean stepping into discomfort, because that's where we grow. That is where we find growth, and we are meant to grow, always meant to grow. But growth feels really hard, and our default brain starts to kind of keep us again in that self-sabotaging, avoidance, buffering place, okay? So, when I talk about clarity, okay, what do you want? How do you want to feel? What does your life get to look like 1 to 3 years from now? And again, we can have the greatest plans and the greatest visions for our life, and like God may have different plans for us, right? So we have to keep that in mind. But really being able to find a place in your mind and in your heart that feels right to you, feels good, feels content. Are you living in a way that feels good to you? Getting really, really clear on that is so important, because we, again, are just so buried under what the world has taught us, what our families have shown us, what our friends have said about us. So like, this is what you should be doing, right? When really it doesn't feel true to us individually. I have this core value worksheet that I'm actually going to send, but essentially it's a matter of like just identifying these 5 core values that you are choosing to lead your life around. So it's interesting because I did this with my husband, and I think 4 of the 5 core values were like spot on together. It was like wild. I'm like, woo, this is so good, babe. So it was like love, growth, adventure, family, respect, something like in that area. I know family and growth and something along the lines of adventure and love were in there. So he wanted to buy a pizza oven. It was like $3,000. I'm like, well, does buying a pizza oven align with our core values? So you see the point in that. And again, I didn't necessarily want to stare at this pizza oven, or I don't want to eat pizzas very often. I like brick oven pizza, don't get me wrong. But spending $3,000 or $4,000 on adventure is more in line with our values. So the idea is that everything outside of the values is secondary, which is so beautiful, because in those moments where life stuff like that shows up, you can really decide quickly based on those core values. And that ties in again to the decision making, but really finding that acceptance is going to be the next step. And this is so key, because when we don't allow that place for acceptance, we dig our heels into resistance, and then we dig our heels into that fear-based mind and all the negative thoughts, right? When you just accept that life is 50-50, good, bad. You lose someone that you love, your kids are sick, you get the flat tire, right? Like all of these life circumstances we're just experiencing them. They're not happening at us or to us, they're just happening. Our circumstances don't define us. They're just happening. You could be the wealthiest, most attractive, talented, amazing person in the world. You are still going to experience the 50-50 of life. The pain, the heartbreak, the failure, the loss, all of it, right? We are human beings living this temporal life, and this is what's happening in our experience, good and bad, right? Life. And what happens in these moments when the good and the bad shows up, especially the negative, right? We want to try to control. We want to try to avoid. We want to try to over prepare and plan. And that's just resistance. That's just, again, the digging the heels in. And when you're doing that, you're controlling and you're worrying and you're in that fear-based mind, you're not allowing for trust. And therefore, you're not allowing space to build that level of confidence. The only thing that we have control over are our intentions, how we want to feel, how we want to show up, how we want to live our life, right? Those core values. I want to be efficient. I want to be a role model, right? All of these intentions are within our control because we can create thoughts and behaviors that align to those. That is all we have control over, our intentions, our thoughts, and our behaviors. So just like we individually only have control over that, so does the next person over here, right? All the people that you have relationships with are responsible for their intentions, their thoughts, and their behaviors. So finding that level of acceptance in the life 50-50 is so important. And that next layer is adding that awareness, right? We have to get curious about our thoughts and beliefs. And I say this all the time. Beliefs are just thoughts you keep on thinking. We have built beliefs over a lifetime. You start building beliefs about yourself, about the world, about your narrative as early as 7, 8 years old. And so much of what we start to believe becomes so ingrained and we continue traveling that pathway. And most of the time it's negative, and because that's where our brain wants to go. Our brain is this primitive brain. We're not going to get rid of our negative thoughts and negative emotions, right? But we have to be aware of them so they don't torment us and create all of this dysfunction. So creating that level of awareness by watching our brain, right? Because again, negativity bias, right? You line up 100 people, 99 of them say you're great, one person says you stink. Whose comment are you focused on all day long, right? And then it creeps into your evening, and now you're in the buffering place, and you're opening up the bottle of wine because you can't believe this person said this about you. Meanwhile, 99 other people said you were wonderful, right? Our brain just loves to go there. I had a client who truly believed that she was conventionally ugly because, in her experience, all she saw based on the magazines and the red carpets and the women in her experience and what people basically subliminally messaged to her was that she's ugly. She doesn't fit the beauty standard, right? Especially as women, we feel this and see this and in our experience and growing up. So if I don't fit the conventional beauty standard, I'm ugly. If you believe that you are ugly and therefore unworthy, or you can imagine all the thoughts that we can create in that space of like telling yourself I'm ugly. What behaviors are you going to engage in? This woman avoided. She did not step into that space of feeling beautiful and free and confident. So she had very limited relationships. She showed up meek and small and again, just kind of tried to hide, right? All of those behaviors just confirm that belief that somehow I'm ugly and I'm unworthy. Just shifting that belief space, that thought space, getting curious about, why do I believe that to be true? Who is the keeper of beauty? Who says that I'm ugly? Why do I believe that I'm ugly, right? There's such an importance behind getting curious and calling out those beliefs and questioning them, because unless we question some of these beliefs that aren't serving us, you're not going to make those shifts. What would be a better belief than I'm ugly and I'm not fitting this beauty standard, and therefore what, I'm going to be alone and miserable forever because I'm ugly? That's not serving us. That does not allow us to step into that place of trust and faith and contentment. So we have to watch the way we think, because our thoughts drive the way we feel, and then our feelings are drive our actions. And if you are defaulting to the negative thoughts and sitting in the negative feeling places, you are not taking any high quality action in your life, and therefore you are not getting any different results. You're not getting any new outcomes, and all that does is confirm the negative thought and belief, right? And our mind loves to do this because you picture yourself sitting like on a stool, let's say, right? Our mind just loves to look in all these different directions, past, future, right? Inward, outward, present. And then we create all the thoughts. Oh, my past, if this didn't happen to me, I'd be in a better place. And if this happens to me in the future, then I can feel happy, right? Going back to that if and when thought. Our mind just likes to look in all these default places. If we are not watching our brain, we're going to continue to default, create all the negative thoughts, all the negative behaviors, and therefore you are just going to confirm that place of lack and resistance and ick versus trust and faith and presence. Okay? Once you have created that level of awareness of the thoughts, I need you to start deciding, okay? And when you make a decision, you are agreeing to commit to that decision and then act consistently with the possibility that you've created. Despite despite the 50-50, right? Again, deciding and also finding that place of acceptance, right? Because there's still going to be the bumps, the obstacles, but you staying, again, blinders on in that decision and staying committed to it, that is essentially an action. A decision can also be a shift in your mind, in your thought, in your belief, deciding to believe that that beauty gets to truly be what's in my heart. Deciding that belief is an action, and consistently staying there even when the world tries to tell you otherwise and you're like triggered and you're like, oh man, I am ugly, what the heck. Believing that and making that decision to believe that new truth, that new thought, and committing to it even when the obstacles show up, that confirms, again, that trusting place. It creates that trusting place. And it provides you with new evidence that, now if I'm telling myself like beauty gets to be in my heart, now you feel better, you feel more empowered, you feel more confident. Then the action is to show up and engage with people. And then people are like, oh, you love her so much, and whatever, right? Like all of this evidence now confirms that new thought and belief, which again is anchored in trust and faith and beauty and joy and all the beautiful things. So deciding and then showing up, right? So when you think about really making these decisions, even if it's in your mind, shifting the thoughts, or if it's a decision in terms of like really taking action. I had a client who decided to divorce her husband. It was a long time coming, just to kind of paint the picture, but I was coaching her through this and she made this decision. But what ends up happening, like, right, we can say all day long, okay, I've decided to leave my husband. Unless you take the action steps to leave your husband and divorce or whatever. And again, this is not one of those beautiful life circumstances. It's more negative, but deciding that I'm divorcing my husband, now I need to take action. And the piece with the action is that sometimes it's multiple action steps under that decision. It's multiple decisions under that decision. Okay, I have to decide where I want to live. Okay, I need to decide what attorney I'm going to book. Now I need to call the attorney. Now I need to call the realtor. Now I need to start looking for places, right? And then she finally got to this point where she did all of these action steps, again, stepping into discomfort. And it was time for her to move out. And that was like paralyzing because it was so confirming that I'm really making this decision. But once she got over that hump and actually took action within that decision, she felt so at peace and so trusting and so free. So getting clear on what you want, gathering all the facts. Napoleon Hill, one of my favorite authors, speaks on this. Once we decide something, if you are successful, a successful person makes decisions quickly and will change the decision rarely once they have all the facts. Whereas an unsuccessful person sits in indecision. They don't make a decision. They take forever to make the decision. And even when they do make the decision, they change it quickly, right? unless you make a decision and take action in it and see it all the way through, step into all the discomfort, right? You're not going to see the ultimate result that's going to confirm that you've made that decision. So what gets to be possible? What thoughts are going to propel me to take this action? Because again, thoughts, feelings, action, and having that faith and that trust is what's going to get you the results. And it's going to confirm that level of confidence because you've shown up. You've shown up, you've decided, and you stepped in, and it provides you with this new evidence and like on fire results. Yes, divorce is not ideal, but this client of mine taking these action steps all along the way that were uncomfortable and had to be consistent and repetitive action, and then getting the ultimate results that confirmed the decision was empowering. It was confident boosting, right? Because confidence is a skill. We're not born with confidence. We're not born with motivation. It is something that we learn. We have to step into. We have to take the action. Honing this skill requires that consistent, repetitive action. So deciding that this is how I'm going to behave when I'm around this family member, right? I'm deciding that I'm not going to avoid this family member because I like to see my entire family and this person happens to be there. I'm not going to be mean to this person. I'm going to show up with love. When you decide that, when this person makes a snide comment, staying consistent with that decision, and the decision may be to speak up, whatever it is, but being consistent with that decision and really being able to trust yourself because you have decided that. And this is what happens. You have to do this in real time. So I can't necessarily tell you the thought and decision to make in the real time. You can maybe think of this beforehand, set that intention. And that's a whole nother topic that I teach in my school and to my clients, right? Setting those intentions so that you show up that way with the blinders on. And then again, the obstacles show up and you're still right there in real time, making those decisions and staying committed to those, even when the 50-50 shows up. And then consistently doing that is what is going to build that level of confidence. For example, right? Delivering a speech, right? That's, I think, one of the biggest fears of people, right? If you decide I'm going to do this, and you actually stand up and deliver the speech, even if your voice is shaky, right? That's the obstacle, right? Even if people are like, oh, you can see some like side eyes, delivering that speech, showing up for it and getting through that and being able to say, I did it, is building that skill. And now you weren't stellar at it the first time, but once you continue to do that repetitive action, step in, well, first of all, get clear on what you want, right? Accept that there might be some eye rolls. Become aware of the thoughts that you're creating. And if you're in your head, oh my God, who's looking at me? What are they doing? Right? Deciding that I'm doing it anyways, and I'm going to crush it. And then showing up for it, moving through all of that and getting to the end result, and then showing up consistently and doing that over and over and over again, you become this amazing public speaker, right? And then you are super confident in public speaking, right? So if you want to, like, if you have to understand, right? Like our mind is where the battle's taking place. If we are not consistently doing this work, again, we're just wreaking all this havoc. Like, you got to be taking action up here. So I invite you to continue taking action up here, right? If you want to continue this work in your mind, if you want to continue to build this level of confidence within yourself based on some of the intentions and the things that you desire in your life, I have this amazing bonus offer for one of my coaching offerings that I'm going to send you. But I just want you to know that I promise you, when you do this work in your mind, you get to have it all. You truly get to have it all. You get to build that level of confidence. You get to step in to so much growth and beauty and joy and peace and freedom and trust and faith. So I thank you for trusting me today. And I can't wait to give you all the juicy details of what I have